Hey there, you're listening to Profoundish. My name's Alex. Today, Weston and I are going to be talking about getting older. You know, I just turned 30 recently, and it's been on my mind, and yeah, so get ready to hear a couple 30-year-old dudes talk about being 30, what we've learned, and then later on, we're going to take a little trip through memory lane and see how many things we remember from the 90s and the early 2000s. Grow old with us here at Profoundish. The internet makes us believe that we are not more divided than we've ever been. Are we?
I would say, while I believe the internet will lead you to believe that everyone's more extremist than they actually are, I would say we are more divided now than ever before. I would say that tracks. I think some of the extremist views, like the level of vitriol you see on the internet, that on average, like in person, is much more toned down. But I think the division is very real. I think because I do see in person a lot more people talking about lines in the sand, especially with family, where just a political disagreement is tearing families apart, and that is something that I didn't used to see before. So I think we are more divided than ever before.
My main exposure,
I think that tracks
with the family thing. My main exposure to that is like I hear it from like coworkers from just from the last 5-6 years. I would hear it. It's like literally cutting people out of their life, or just kind of going to extremes in their language about their people in their life, just about differing views. Which it does feel like that has happened a lot more than I've ever remember seeing it growing up or whatever. Right. So it's probably one of those, both things feed the other. So, you know, the internet's also feeding extremist content to people. Yeah. So they're getting it, they're bringing it to the real world, and they're bringing it back to the internet. So it's probably kind of a...
Yeah.
Whatever this would be.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it does feed into itself. Like real life feeds into the internet, and the internet feeds back. And you've got this sort of cycle that can be very dangerous. I just think that if you're like perusing the internet, you will see, again, it's that extremist stuff. You will see the worst of the worst come out. And I think that creates a perception that so many people are worse than they actually are, because you're only on the internet, no matter what you're doing on the internet, you're only seeing a slice of someone's life, or a slice of someone's views, or, you know, just that slice. So you don't get the context. And I think that's a very skewed way of looking at the world if you're chronically online. And you think that we see this all the time with like the doomers, where like the apocalypse is around the corner any second. And it's like, you need to breathe and step outside and remember that the world still turns. You know what I mean?
I know. I know.
That's, I've got someone on, actually, I'm sure he's on your Facebook too. A mutual on Facebook is like having a breakdown right now over like political stuff. I'm like, I don't know what he's seeing on Facebook. He just needs to block the people that are driving him nuts, because it's like, bro, we're not super close. We're just Facebook friends, but like I'll see every like day or every other day, like flipping through Facebook, and I'm like, someone needs to like stop Facebook for a little bit. Like just go outside and breathe.
After we're done recording, I want you to shoot me that name. I'm just curious, but
sure.
It's a rough one. I know that when I was, that's actually one reason why I'm kind of I'm kind of out of social media now, unless I'm promoting
social
something.
Media will objectively make you sadder or more depressed or angrier or anything, but nothing good.
Yeah, well, exactly. And what I was going to say was that's kind of one reason why I stepped away from it about, I don't know, 8-9 months ago, whenever that was now. And it was because I found myself kind of more to the other point that you were making about it's almost like chronically online, which I never would have considered myself chronically online, but I would consider myself at one point or another to where I was just like this endlessly spending so much time online to doing different things all the time, whatever, different social media platforms, looking up stuff, that I was spending more time on there than I was realizing the world was turning. And I just kind of grew an awareness of that. And I don't know, it's weird. And I've noticed that like you are fed things whether you want to be or not. Meaning like, and you start to have these ideas and these thoughts and like, I don't know. It's a whole thing. We don't need to get into today, but it does make a huge difference stepping away. Mm-hmm. I know for me, it's brought an immense amount of clarity. And I think that's why so many people on maybe a less deep scale, just more on a more surface level, so many people everybody knows they need to quit Twitter. Everybody, right? It's true. Anyone who uses Twitter hates Twitter. Like, I was one of those people. You know what I mean?
I have been power using Twitter for years. I have also been saying that it's a cesspit for years.
Exactly. Everybody knows it. It's just like, it really is a drug. I mean, these apps are built to be addicting. But it's a drug you can't quit. And I'm saying this as someone who couldn't either. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing, and I have a whole lot to say about social media.
There's a lot of good you can get out of social media. I think the problem is if you're going to use to follow your drug analogy, you have to use it in moderation. If you're on social media too much, that's how you spiral into these skewed views of the world, and you start like going down like very strange paths of either being angry, depressed, sad, because these are all the emotions that sell. Mm-hmm. So these algorithms will send you negatively charged content if you let it. So it's important to know to step away and not just be on it for hours a day, every single day. Mm-hmm. It's important to your mental health to do. If you can do that, if you can moderate it, there's a lot of good that can come from it. You can find connection where you might otherwise not do it. Plenty of people meet each other and are friends through social media. You can stay connected with news, and again, you shouldn't probably go to Twitter for your news, but you can, something happens and someone will tweet about it, and then you can do further research. So you might hear about something. I think there's a lot of good that can come from social media, but you have to use it in moderation or it'll destroy you.
And once again, they're literally algorithmically programmed to have us to keep us on there as long as possible. It's even harder.
Yeah.
And book recommendation, by the way. I think I might have told this to you before. If you're ever curious, you can do audiobook or buy the physical thing. It's called The Chaos Machine. It really breaks into that. And this goes to anyone listening or watching. It really opens your eyes, and that book is actually kind of what started me on my path to pulling away from social media and kind of some form of smartphone tech as a whole. So highly recommend it. It really opens your eyes to some stuff. Chaos Machine. I was going to say one word that I think of a lot when you say moderation. A word I like to use is intentionality. So like I use my phone even and social media specifically at this point intentionally and only intentionally. So like what I did, for example, because like I hopped on Facebook for like 2 minutes today and I was like catching up on all my happy birthday posts from a couple weeks ago. And I thought, okay, yeah, this takes a few minutes. But like that was my purpose. I went on there. I said thank you to everybody who said happy birthday. And then I got off. And I also looked at a picture that somebody posted of me and them. And I was like, oh, that's cute, whatever. And like I was gone. And I don't feel depressed about it. I don't feel sad about it. I don't feel like someone's got their lives figured out better than me. You know, I just feel like I intentionally chose to hop on for a minute, say hi to a couple people, and get off. And so anyway, that's moderation still, same thing. But like having the intention to go in there to do a specific thing and then get off for me has been huge. Same thing with like Instagram. Like there's a couple people I message on Instagram specifically, like one of a mutual friend of ours, they prefer to message on Instagram versus text. So I'll go on there and for that, and then I'll be off. For me, that works. I know that's not cut and dry for everybody, but that's
right.
Having the intention before I even start helps me get off in 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, it's the trap becomes when you just open up the app because you're bored and you've built a habit of, I have a spare second, I'll open up the app, and then you're on it for an hour or whatever. That you build that routine, that ritual, that habit. That's when it gets dangerous. Of you're just scrolling.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and that's all of us. Like,
I do it all the time.
Like, yeah, I mean, I was horrible. Once again, before I read that book and everything, and I started to kind of look at things a little differently. Yeah, I mean, the doom scrolling was terrible.
I will say I'm really good about not doom scrolling anymore. There was a time where I was falling into that trap a little bit. But for the most part, it's not actually been a major issue where I don't doom scroll. A lot of people do. They doom scroll and they start just seeing stuff that like they hate and that makes them mad. And they go down this rabbit hole. Most of my stuff for a while now is just I'm scrolling like infinitely, but it's not doom scrolling. It's like bloom scrolling or something, like, you know, it's like just memes and jokes. And Instagram, most of what I follow on Instagram is like literally comic strips. So I'm just reading comics is what I'm really doing, you know, stuff like that.
Instagram is the only app I have on my phone, because, and once again, I still hardly use it, but when I get on there maybe once or twice a week, for me it's a lot easier, even if I don't have the intention, because it really is, at least for who I follow too, because I choose who I follow very carefully. And it's just stuff that I really want to see, and it's nothing that could cause any sort of. It's harder to doom scroll on Instagram anyway, but you know what I mean. Like, just
Twitter, it's very easy.
Images. Oh, Twitter is doom. Just that's what Twitter is. At least from my experience when I used to use it.
I've ruined my Twitter experience forever because I didn't do the like be careful about who you follow type thing. I've followed thousands of accounts because I was just using Twitter in a very different way than your average user ought to use Twitter. And so like I have permanently just wrecked that algorithm. It will forever be strange. It's kind of fascinating. I think that's why I keep coming back.
The whole thing was kind of fascinating because I remember we were talking about that years ago when you said, "Okay, Alex, I'm going to try this out."
I know. I was trying to be like a Twitter influencer kind of situation, so I was trying to make that happen. And
you were getting
I'm
some
definitely
feedback
not on
for a
that
while.
train anymore. But yeah, I was like doing some traction,
Or some
stuff.
engagement.
Yeah. Nothing crazy like you'd see like from famous pages or whatever. But like, you know, just as a guy, I was doing okay. Yeah.
Right. Hey, Weston.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, I wanted to talk to you.
Oh, good. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. Now that we kind of hit some heavy topics for a second there, I thought we could kind of stick on that bandwagon a little bit. Because I wanted to at least to a degree. I want to go back a little bit and talk about what we talked about, I think this last episode. Not about my birthday, although we did briefly mention that. Let's talk about my birthday again.
Happy birthday, Alex! Yeah, you're like Weston. I was going to do a birthday episode for my episode, so we're doing it again.
Well, I was thinking about this. You had me thinking at the end of that first segment of our last episode. You were like, well, we're going to kind of talk about getting older, turning 30, what that means and stuff. And I know we talked about that when you turned 30, but I thought we could kind of go back to that conversation again a little bit.
Sure.
Because I know last week we talked about mainly like slang and lingo and like
yeah, we went on a little bit about that.
But I thought it'd be kind of fun to check in on you on that because in a handful of months you'll be 31.
I stopped. I stopped at 30. I'm done. That's it.
Does that mean you're dying or you'll just always be 30?
Yes.
Some would say I'm already dead. So
some would say I've been dead for years on the inside.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll start it off with this. So leading up to 30, I wasn't thinking about it much. I mean, I'd think about the stuff like, wow, 30. What does that mean, right? And then I wouldn't think about it. And then I turned 30, and I had a nice birthday with some friends. Weston even played a part. He made Steph had a bunch of my closest friends and family make videos saying happy birthday, and it was amazing, and Weston was on there. And it was funny because it was the day after I turned 30. We were celebrating Easter with my family. Steph and I were driving back home, and I remember we were like getting into the door, like we were opening the door, and I like dropped my keys or something. I don't know, because I couldn't see. It was dark or whatever it was. And she said, man, you're getting old. Some joke about that. And then I said, yeah, I'm 30. And that was the moment where I actually processed that I was 30. This random moment walking into
that was
my
the moment it finally
apartment.
actually sunk in. We're like, oh.
Yeah. No, I was building up to it mentally for months. I'm going, all of 29, I was telling myself I was 30. Right?
Well, that's the trap, right? I'm going to be 30. I'm going to be 30. I'm going to be 30. Even on your birthday, you're like, well, no, I'm going to be 30. And then it finally, I'm there now. Yeah. The world turns. It's time.
I know. I just remember driving home, just kind of processing that because I dropped Steph off at her house and I went back to mine that night and didn't listen to music or anything like that. I just thought, wow. And then I thought, what does it mean? And I went through this thing in my head for this 30-minute drive of like, it was a huge mix of stuff. It was like, okay, I kind of started to think about, wow, I'm different at 30 than I was at 20. And I've learned a lot since then, which is something I thought you and I could talk about. But then I also thought about, am I actually worried about getting older? I'll kind of go on this autopilot sometimes of like, I'm getting older. And then, but it seems kind of surfacey, because then in my deepest thoughts, I don't have a fear of getting older. It's almost like, I don't know if it's like people just communicate it so much. It's like 30, it's a big number. And I wonder if it's almost like a little bit outside pressure. Am I actually concerned about aging? And I just don't know where I even stand on it. Does that kind of make sense? I'm kind of battling that in my head of like, it's about actually being concerned, or not a concern, but afraid of getting older, like afraid of losing something from not getting any younger. I don't even know if that's a concern for me. It's a weird thought process I've been going through. I'm just curious what you've been going through, like when you turn 30 and all that stuff.
Right. I think it depends on what your goals are. So for me, it's less about actually, like, getting older doesn't actually bother me, although I love to use it. Like I'm Dr. Farnsworth from Futurama. I love being the old guy. Like I'm just like, I want to be the oldest man in the room, where it's like one day I'm going to be just 9,000 years old. And I'm like, I don't even want to be young anymore. Right. But anyway, so like I make fun of it. Like, I've got an older coworker at work that I'll say, oh, well, one day when you're my age, you'll understand, when I'm like having like an achy back or something. Right. And she's like, shut up. But like, so like, I like making fun of getting older, but I think the thing that bothers me the most, that does bother me a lot, but I don't know what to do about it, is the feeling that I'm running out of time to do XYZ things. Yeah. So actually, with the recent book that I published, that was one of those things where it's like, I'm in my 30s now. I'm officially entering the 30s territory, right? All of those, I'll do that eventuallys that I used to say when I was younger. When is eventually? Yeah. When are we there? And it came down to the, like, if I don't actually do it myself, like, it's not going to do it on its own. It's not going to do it by itself. I have to do these eventuallys, or one day I will be old and I won't be able to do these things, or I'm going to look back and wish I did these things, that kind of thing. The feeling of pressure that you're running out of time to do XYZ, whatever it might be. So for me, like, it could be like all my writing projects, which hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll never not be able to write. I'm not going to go blind and lose my arms and live in a bed or something. Yeah. So like, I'll be able to do that. But like, whatever projects you might have, if you want to get fit, well, one day you're going to be like old. So it's like, well, now's the time to get fit. If you're trying to get into relationships or start a family or something like that, like, that's a big one, right? Like, if you aren't in a relationship or you don't have a family yet, it's like, well, if you want to do that, I mean, like, time to get a move on, that type of thing. So it's like, it's that pressure that you're running out of time. For me, it's not the actually getting old part that bothers me. It's the, I don't want to run out of time to do the things I want to do while I am still young.
I guess that's kind of really what it is for me when I think about it.
Right.
That is what it is. That's just kind of it's more specific. And especially for people like us who are, we're creative people. We like to make things. We put a lot of our value and our worth into the things we make, right? So that's kind of what, that's just it's human nature for people who are like artists and creatives and stuff. I think the problem, though, and this is something that I've been actually telling myself a lot lately, especially in the last year or so, I've been telling myself, like, spend less time worrying about how much time we have left. Now, granted, I still do it. I still worry about, time, all that stuff. But I think that's something that's the key to so many of us, is like, spend less time on that and just do it. Because at the end of the day, it's likely, I mean, one of us, something could happen, but it's likely that we still have plenty of time when it comes to just pure years, to do the things that we want to do. But yet, this is something that anyone, artists, any kind of people across the board, it's just a human thing to struggle to be in the present and always be worrying either about what's already happened or worry about how much you've got left or what you need to do. I'll get to it later. It's very hard to just be in the moment and do. I've learned, at least with me. And I think a lot of us can relate to that too. It's just like, that's, I think, a huge key. It's just do it. But it's hard. It's easy to say it.
Especially, so there's so many new things you experience as you get older that like you think you've seen it all, but like there's always something like maybe not as earth-shatteringly like obviously new, but is still new. So the thing that I think, especially that ties into aging, the new thing you experience when you get older isn't so much the milestones like, oh, I'm 18 now, I'm an adult. Oh, I'm 21, I can drink now, that kind of stuff. It's more like I'm 30 now. A month feels like a day to me.
I know.
When I was 8, a week was an eternity.
I know.
The next time I would see Christmas was literally an unbearable amount of time that I had to wait. You know what I mean? Like unbearable, unfathomable distance.
Right.
And then you're like 30 and you're like, is it April?
That's exactly.
Like, what?
I know.
Like, I thought, wait, of 2024? What year is it? What?
I know.
You're just like it's been like a day and it's been months.
Everybody who was a grown-up when we were kids, everybody would say it. It's like time flies. The older you get, the faster time goes, and you're young and you don't think about it, whatever. And
it's so accurate and so terrifying.
I know. When I was, I'd say probably when I hit around, I'm curious, maybe when you started noticing it. For me, I started noticing it like when I got to the back half of the 20s. So like when I was 27, I was like, oh my God, I'm 27. Where did those last 7 years of my life go? And then at that point, it kind of started to skyrocket from there. And then specifically this year, turning 30, for some reason, I was like, okay, I said that about April at the beginning of the month, but then literally yesterday, so as of recording of this, yesterday, it was the 8th of April, I thought, how has it been 8 days? I felt like I've slept once.
Yeah.
And I
have text messages that I have forgotten to respond to, and I realize that it has been far too long. Like, oh shoot, it's like, oh, I'll get back to this. Oh crap, I forgot to respond to this text. I open up the text message. Oh, it's not been a day. It's been 2 weeks.
Right. It's crazy.
Whoa.
So when you look at it at that lens and you see how quickly it truly does just go, no wonder we worry about like, how much are we going to get done? And whatever, like how many goals can we hit? Blah blah blah, and all this stuff. Because you wake up and it's gone and it's true, and that's something I've been mulling around a lot in my head too. Is like, I guess, and it goes back to the same answer I think, which is just doing your best to be present. That's the word I use a lot too in my head, and that's kind of what I talked about to you kind of personally about my birthday. I told you that. One thing that I've been doing a lot of is the phone wasn't even in the same building as me at the time. And so no phone, I was just with people in that moment, and I completely lost track of time. And like time still went by fast. They say time flies when you're having fun, but it was different. And it was a day, it was like an entire day. It was like from sun up to sundown pretty much of things that were really fun and special. And I just felt very there. I wasn't worried about turning 30. I wasn't worried about things I had to get done. I wasn't worried about it ending. One thing that I'm gonna poke at Steph for this. Hopefully she's okay if I do this. But one thing that I know that her and I talk about a lot when we go on trips is we'll get in these conversations about this trip's going to be over soon and I don't want it to be. And about, I understand why we think that way, but instead it should be, we're on this trip, let's have a great time. And because as soon as you start, I feel it, and I've said this too, it's like as soon as you start worrying about it being over, you kind of lost the battle, because that's just always incessantly...
It's tainting your present experience.
Exactly. And being present, I feel like, is just such a crucial key thing, really, of the human experience. And I think there's so many distractions these days, it's harder to be present. But when you are, I think that's when somehow time freezes but also moves. It's really weird, but like it feels like it just kind of, you're there. And I think that's what's super important for all of that. is presence.
Yeah. I think too, it's, I think for some people that can be really telling if you're like, say you're on vacation and you spend more time like dreading going back to your life as opposed to being excited to get back to your life and being refreshed. So it's like, it might be time too to realize that you have to change something. Like stepping away from something is often a really good way to like reanalyze that thing.
Yeah.
So you step away from your life and you go on vacation, and then you realize that when you come back, like, oh, I need to make some changes because actually I've been dreading coming back home or back to work or whatever. And it's, and that can be an eye-opening experience to say, if I don't make changes now, I'm going to keep spending the rest of my life wishing I was somewhere else or done something different or whatever. I'd spent my time differently. So I think that that's important too. Like, not only like it's the being present, but then also knowing how to separate yourself from your surroundings so that you can observe your surroundings. Yeah. And you can't do that if you're too busy observing the future or observing the past. You're not seeing where you are and like where you like how you feel about where you are. Not like where you want to be, because that's still looking in the future. It's like, how do you feel about where you are? That's the first step to even know if you need to make a change or not. Exactly. And I feel like these like birthdays and getting older and that it's a good time for reflection. So it's like, be present in the moment. How do I feel in the present? You know, right. And I think that's how you can kind of start. It does start there. It starts with like that those thoughts, which then can lead to the actions you'll want to take instead of maybe not looking at your environment first, looking at where you're at in your life, kind of bigger picture. You know, because I think if you skip that step, just kind of like you say, it's going to be kind of really hard to see it, quote unquote, objectively or whatever. And it's all from our perception, but you know what I'm trying to say, from a bigger picture. And I think that's when, once you see it that way, that's when you can really start taking actionable steps, whether it's to do that creative thing you want to do, to actually finally get that writing project off the ground or anything, or make the change in your life you need to make. And it's, but that's hard. And getting away is a great way to do that. I've learned that I usually have those thoughts. I can do that just by, like, I'll think about that stuff a lot. I've been trying to get out and walk some more. Really just because you talk about being fit. You know, that's like the biggest, that's my biggest probably thing I need to do. I eat well, you know, but I do not. That's already a great start, right? Like eating well is always already very difficult for a lot of people because fast food and convenient food is convenient. And then like a lot of people are sedentary. If you're doing an office job, it's like easy to just, you know, eat crap and that affects you. But snacks. But God, being active, I mean, there's so many great benefits to that. You know, there's links to mental health with that, like, you know, you know, helping that out, and obviously just your physical fitness overall and all that stuff. So I'm trying to get better at that. But side note, I wanted to ask you this before we forget, because we'll probably switch to our other segment pretty soon. I was going to ask you, it's kind of a big question and it's kind of random, but what would you say from like 20 to 30, right? So go back the last 10 years for you. What would you say is like the biggest thing or biggest couple things that maybe you learned kind of in your life? They can be kind of general or they can be specific, but things that you learned that you will probably, I'm assuming, apply life-wise going forward. If you want, I can start because I can, because I got to think too really quick. I just lost it. I mean, I have a vague thing that's kind of my go-to answer about what I've learned. It's talking to people. So in my heart of hearts, I really want nothing to do with people. Yeah. Like I just really want to go into a closet and be alone forever. Yeah. But like that's in my heart of hearts, I am actually super introvert, hermit crab, leave me alone. But what I've discovered is that life is far more interesting and entertaining with others. So in that vein, you know, the thing that I've learned the most is how to communicate, how to talk to people. And when I say learn to communicate, I'm not talking about like doing it right or whatever. I just mean literally getting onto someone's level and knowing how to like either match an energy or like meet someone where they're like at and just know how to talk to somebody and hear somebody's story out. I've met and spoken to so many people. Again, I want to be a hermit. So it's like the number of people I have actually just met and learned their story for no other reason than they were there and we were talking. It's just, I think it's an enriching experience where you can get people's perspectives, even though their perspectives you yourself may be, for better or worse, would never have lived otherwise, right?
Yeah.
And I think that shared experience has been really valuable in my worldview. So if there's anything that I think I've learned, it's to be open-minded and open to conversation when it presents itself, even when it's uncomfortable. I have been in so many conversations with people that like, after I'm done talking to this person, someone else is like, did you know that person? And I'm like, nope, they were kind of weird. I'm like, yep.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like just random things that just talking to people opens you up to so many stories and so many experiences.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing that that's my kind of go-to
I like
is
that.
like learn to talk to people, learn to do it.
Yeah.
Even if it makes you uncomfortable, just do it.
I like that. And there's a lot of things to kind of break down from there. I know one thing that my dad always would tell me growing up, but it means a lot to me now. You talk about the discomfort. You know, there's so many things. There's exceptions to the rule, but there's so many things where if it makes you uncomfortable, it might be worth doing. And that's hard, especially if it involves people. I'm the same way as you, Weston. I'm the same exact way. And I have also actually increasingly seen the value of connection and even just from life perspectives, but not even just like learning new perspectives and people's stories, but also there's so many things that can alter the trajectory of your life, and it's all sourced from people. You know, it could be a change in career, it could be a change in creative work that you do, it could be you could meet the love of your life. You know, you could meet your arch nemesis. No matter what it is, like
better or worse.
It all starts with people. And when I was 20 versus now, I mean, I still struggle with really stepping out of my comfort zone and talking with people I don't really know or strangers or kind of making these acquaintances and stuff and just learning these perspectives. And but I am better at it than I used to be, and I'm trying to continue to get better at it because I do see the value just like you do. We're meant to connect with other humans. We're built that way. And but that's the thing I guess I wanted to add to that was that it also leads to so many other changes. And if you don't learn that, I feel like, not that you have to be a social butterfly and go out every night or something, but like,
right.
Because there's a line, obviously, and there are introverts and there are extroverts, you know, but to some degree, I think everybody can benefit from connection with people because it could lead to so many different opportunities that you wouldn't otherwise have. You know, if you really want to be like, for me, for quite a few years, it's not really my dream anymore, but for my early 20s, I really did have that dream to become a successful musician, and being an introvert and not going out and meeting people. You know, and our line of work with creative stuff, knowing people is over half the battle most of the time. And that's a big part of it. I still tell people this. I'll just say, like, we'll talk about like music or being an introvert or whatever, and I'll say, yeah, try being an introverted musician. Just try it, right? Just to kind of paint that picture of like, it sucks because like that's what Gravity Man's about, the whole thing, you know. And, but yeah, people, that's huge. I don't know. I also have learned from my perspective too, that on a more personal level with people, that just in general, I do appreciate and do enjoy my time around people more than I used to tell myself. So I still feel very introverted and I just want to be alone in a corner, just kind of like what you said. But I find myself when I mentally shift that a little bit, like if there's plans and I'm going to be meeting new people that night, right? Like maybe I have one mutual friend and there's new people involved or whatever. I would think of any excuse I could to either get out early, not go, or whatever. These days, that it's still there at first, right? It pops up in my head. It's like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it, right? but I force myself to do it, and I find myself, at worst, meeting somebody that I may never talk to again. At best, I make a friend, I learn a new perspective, I learn something, I gain insight, I learn how to be a more social human. And I think there's a lot of value in that. So I know personally for me, I've learned that I do enjoy my time around people I don't know well or strangers, but it's still a long journey to go because for some people it just naturally comes easier. But for people like you and me, it takes a lot of effort.
Yeah, I think that's well said.
Thank you.
I think that's well said.
Thank you.
I have no notes.
No notes. Okay, he has no notes.
No notes. No notes.
Well, I think that's good for now. This is always a fun topic to touch on because Weston and I we've been friends a long time and we're getting older together. Well, let's do our next.
No, I'm not getting any older. I'm done.
Oh, that's right. We already said you're dead. So
yeah, my last birthday, I'm done.
You're done. That's it. Okay. Hey,
that's it.
Happy birthday and happy funeral. I guess it is what it is.
I'm not dying. I'm just not aging. I'm done.
I don't know.
I'm not getting older. I'm done.
Okay, you're gonna be like,
yes, I've decided.
Yeah, you're just gonna be 90 years old. You know, like your eyes are drooping to your jaw, and you're just like, I'm not getting older. I'm just done.
I'm still 30 years old. I will be 30 forever.
Hey, you're listening to Magic Man Mo. We're playing, or what would it be, like your 18th?
Hello, friends. Welcome back to episode 97 of Five Nights at Freddy 43.
We're taking it back today.
This is the latest edition of the most lit fam game. I don't know what the kids will be saying by that.
Could you imagine you're still doing Magic Man Mo at that point, and it's still 12-year-olds? So like you're like 90 years old, and you're just like, don't tell me your age. This is just please stop.
Stop it. I didn't ask, and I will never ask.
I don't know how to floss. I never learned. Of course, that would be old by that point.
Yeah, no one will know by then what a floss is.
Right. Okay.
Is anyone out there that just doesn't know right now? We're not talking about your teeth.
No, yeah. Flossing is a dance that I think I originally saw on TikTok back in the day.
That was one of the first Fortnite dances,
Yeah.
I think, and then it blew up on Fortnite and TikTok both.
Well, speaking of blowing up on TikTok, this has nothing to do with TikTok because what Wes and I are going to be doing in our next segment, we're going to be hopping online. I'll probably share my screen just for the hell of it. And we're going to just be doing a couple BuzzFeed-esque, I don't know if they're actually BuzzFeed. One of them is BuzzFeed. A BuzzFeed article about 90s kids and early 2000s kids, just nostalgia stuff. And we're going to kind of scroll through some things and see what we remember, just for fun. So we'll be looking at those after the break. Profoundish is brought to you in part by my music. I'm a singer, songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist. Most of my songs tell stories, some real, some not, but all of them speak to an experience that we all share, the human condition. Search my name, Alex Duquette, on any streaming platform. Thanks for listening.
Profoundish is brought to you in part by HastilyMadeDecision.com. Get your poetry fix from my poetry blog featuring haiku, senryu, freeform stuff, and more. Again, that's HastilyMadeDecision.com for your poetry fix.
Welcome back, everybody. If my face is redder than it was before, it's because I got frustrated because my computer was having a stupid. So Weston is actually sharing this article.
Yes.
We got two articles here. We made. I don't think we're going to go through both, but I think I'm going to ask Weston which he would prefer to do. So this first one is 60 things that every single 90s kid will recognize just looking at them, but will have a harder time remembering the last time they thought about it. So it's just 60, just like nostalgic 90s things. Now, I picked 90s or I picked 2000s because Weston and I were born like 93, 94, respectively. So by the time we were in the 2000s, that's when we were really starting to soak in a lot of things around us. We were like 7. You know what I mean? So I don't know how much we'll actually really remember from the 90s. if this is for like kids who were like born in the late 80s or something. I haven't looked through it.
Right.
So, and the 2000s, I know we'll have a lot more memories because that's really when, our formative years are kind of taking place. So I don't know what you think, if you have a preference, because I don't think we're going to be able to get through both.
Because we've got that, and we got 50 nostalgic things. We can start working through a few of the 90s things, and then, we don't have to go through all 60, and then we'll swap over to the 2000s things.
That works.
Hey, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. We get to win. A little bit of bow.
All right. Whatever the hell that means. Weston went, water bow. Don't get me wrong. We are 30, but we'll still do water bow.
I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what that is.
That's what you did.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
You went water bow? Don't make me sound like a fool, Weston.
No, I said how about bow?
I don't know bow. You should be Magic Band Bo. Magic Band Bo.
I'm trying to say how about both.
Oh. I just heard bada bow.
I know. I was like, what? I mean, I don't know what I sound like.
Well, that's what you sound like, and now you know. It's like instead of saying bada bing, bada boom, you just go bada bow. It almost sounds like Blue from Blue's Clues.
Yeah, Blues from Blue's Clues. That's a 2000. That was a really good one, I think. That was really good.
Thank you. Let's do this thing. 90s kids. Let's see what we remember. Please feel free to play along with us. If you're watching the video portion, you can see pictures, but we'll read these as well. So first one is, you just want to read these since you're kind of manning it.
Rainbow-colored bags that Toys R Us used to have. See, I wasn't a big Toys R Us kid, though. We've been a few times, but it wasn't, like, big, so I don't remember these at all.
I vaguely remember them because that was sometimes the place we would go to get video games if we bought them.
That's the weirdest thing to me. Like, I still think it's bizarre that Toys R Us has video games. Like, that is not a place that should have them.
Oh, but
that's like...
That was
weird to me.
One of the places though in the 90s, and when you think about it, like at the time especially, video games, regardless, they were kids things, and it's like it's for kids, especially in like the early to mid 90s, and so Toys R Us, kids toys. So I bought a lot of games there. When I didn't.
Target or Walmart.
Sure, that's where we went later, but I remember that too. So. I do have a little bit of nostalgia for that colorful bag, but it could be in my head. I just remember buying games there.
Weird. That place was just always, for me, when I think Toys R Us, I think walking in, and for a while, this probably isn't kosher anymore, but walking in, and they'd have like a massive blue aisle for the boys, and there'd be like a massive pink aisle for the girls.
Oh, yeah,
stuff that's like very obvious. Like, that's what I remember.
I remember that, yeah.
The awesome Disney Happy Meal toys that came in mini VHS clamshells.
I don't remember
I don't actually remember these toys. I remember, like, that just in general, Happy Meals had way better toys.
Yeah.
But I don't actually remember the VHS mini clamshells. I don't remember those.
That's cool, though.
But I also don't know... I don't know how many Happy Meals we got growing up. Like, we'd go to McDonald's from time to time, but I actually don't remember getting, like, a toy every time. So it might not have been Happy Meals every time. That might have been part of it.
My primary McDonald's memories as a kid were just playing in those tubes. I loved that as a kid.
I remember the play places.
But
those got ruined for my family fairly early on when my mom had to go into a tube to go get, I think, my brother. It was one of us or whatever, and she found like a turd in one of the tubes. It was like, yeah, we're never going back inside these.
There's a reason why those are disappearing because, they're this...
Yeah, I can't imagine, like, working in fast food myself. I can't imagine if you were working at McDonald's, someone's got to go in and clean those, and I guarantee you they weren't.
Yeah. Well,
so...
I watched a documentary about ball pits. A year ago, it was like an hour long
concept,
thing.
But they're gross.
Yeah, and it's exactly, and it talks about why they're gone now. They don't exist for a reason. They're so gross. They were a health hazard for so many kids. So,
I can only imagine. The Disney Store's version of Beanie Babies that were called Bean Bag Plush. I do remember these actually. I think this Mickey Mouse one. I swear, I think we had him.
Really?
Yeah.
When were you at a Disney store?
We had a lot of Beanie Bag. I don't think we got it at a Disney store.
Oh, okay.
I think we just got it somewhere.
Okay.
He just looks really familiar, and we were a beanie bag family. We weren't like collecting them, like hoarding them or whatever, but we had a lot of Beanie Babies actually. We still do. They're in a storage container at home or whatever. We just never got rid of them. None of them are worth anything, so it's not like we're holding on to them for that reason. But
I will say for anyone maybe a little bit younger who's listening, if you didn't know this, in the early 2000s, late 90s, Beanie Babies were like a hot commodity. I remember like people were collecting them and like selling them, like, and that's when eBay was getting big, and people were selling like all their Beanie Babies on eBay, and now they're like worth nothing again, which is kind of funny, but that's how it goes, I guess. But
because they're only worth something if someone will pay for them, and it got so ridiculous, and it's like no one wants them now. So it's like, yeah, there's some rare ones that are theoretically worth a lot, but you have to find someone that'll buy it.
Yeah, I was a flash in the pan. It was weird.
We just played with them.
Yep.
The Cabbage Patch dolls that ate food but had to be discontinued because they also ate kids' hair if they weren't careful. I don't remember them eating kids' hair, but like we would have been kids, so I probably just didn't know about that controversy.
Well, plus I feel like, I don't know, that once again, maybe not kosher, kind of like you said, but I feel like a lot more girls. Like I feel like one of my siblings who are like my sisters had one of these. I remember these eating food, but I remember thinking it was gross. I think I remember seeing the commercials for it and thinking it was weird.
The one that upset me the most, but like not like angry or anything, but it was for girls. It was a girl's toy. Was the one where you could feed this doll. It wasn't a Cabbage Patch, but this girl doll. You could feed her a bottle that would actually take actual liquid, and she wore a diaper. She would actually pee. And you learn to change the diaper. And it's just water. So like the little diaper thing dried out or it wiped off or whatever it was. It was just reusable.
Yeah.
But that was the idea, is that you would like pretend to like feed this baby doll, and then it would eventually pee, and you'd learn to change the diaper or whatever. I'm like, I'm not okay with this.
No.
But it's for girls. I'll never have to worry about it. I'll go back to playing with my action figures.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Ugh. Well, here's a rabbit hole that I recommend and also don't recommend you go down, is like going to Amazon or like eBay and just looking up those baby dolls that like look really real. They're horrifyingly weird. It's that uncanny valley sort of thing. And I know I only know this because one of my coworkers has a little one, and she was looking at baby dolls, and we went down that rabbit hole. Look that up sometime. Just those realistic looking baby dolls.
Realistic baby dolls.
It's weird. And then
baby dolls have been creepy forever, though.
They
like
have
the old
been.
Victorian ones you see in like horror movies and stuff. Like something about baby dolls have never been okay.
Yeah,
it's just never been okay.
There's something. You're right. Yeah.
Pizza Hut's The Pizza Head Show commercials. I actually don't remember this at all.
I do, but I think it's only because I watch a lot of nostalgic commercials. I mean, I stream them sometimes.
Okay, yeah.
So I might be mistaken, because I think Pizza Hut was big growing up, but it was even bigger when we were super little. Like in the early 90s, Pizza Hut was huge. And I still love Pizza Hut. Yeah, it's good. So
I definitely know I saw Pizza Hut commercials. I just don't remember the Pizza Head Show. I don't remember that one.
Yeah.
7-Up's mascot, Cool Spot, which I never realized was supposed to be the dot from the 7-Up logo. I like that the author of this article added a little, extra something there. They're like, it's not just 7-Up's mascot. By the way, I didn't even realize. It's supposed to be the dot from the 7-Up logo? What do I even know what the 7-Up logo looks like? Hang on, 7-Up logo. I'm looking this up. Oh my God, there is a red dot in 7-Up.
You never knew that?
I think my brain tuned that out. You remember when we played the logo and mascot game or whatever it was?
Oh,
and
yeah.
You had like, the Pringles can guy. Did he have a mustache or not? That kind of stuff. 7-Up would have got me. 7-Up would have got me.
Noted. I remember this mascot, but I don't remember why.
I remember the mascot because he was in commercials.
We drank 7-Up a lot too, so my mom did. I remember she liked it.
We really didn't. 7-Up was you're sick. For some reason, 7-Up was like a curative drink.
Yeah, I get it.
If you were sick, you'd drink 7-Up. And I'm like, I don't know why.
I guess it's like closer to ginger ale than like a root beer would be or something. It's like clear. It's got that more limey kind of taste, I guess. But
because we definitely wouldn't do root beer for like when you're sick. And we may have done ginger ale. I've actually never been a big fan of ginger ale. I'm still not a big fan of ginger ale.
Oh, it's good.
I can drink it, but I'm not really a big fan.
Yeah.
But 7-Up was always our like, oh yeah, you've got like the cold or the flu. Well, here's some chicken noodle soup and a 7-Up. It's just weird. I don't know how that came to be a thing. It wasn't weird then, but it's weird to think about.
Well, I remember that seemed to be a remedy. Maybe it was a 90s thing because it was like, Mom, my stomach hurts. She's like, okay, we'll get you a pop.
Yeah.
And usually it was a Sprite. For us, it was like Sprite, but similar. Sprite and 7-Up are pretty similar.
If you didn't have 7-Up, it'd be like Sprite.
Right.
Yes.
And but yeah, there's something about that. Yeah, we'll get you a pop. You know. And I remember it could have been just my brain or enough time passed, but I remember always thinking it worked. Like pop will settle your stomach.
Right.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah.
It's specifically those. Michigan J. Frog as the mascot for Warner Brothers for WB. I remember him.
I remember him too. I used to watch the WB a lot because that had that's where I watched like Pokemon and Animaniacs and all those shows.
Yeah, I guess I don't think I realized he was like the mascot for WB.
Me neither.
I just know he was always on it. I just thought he was a character. I wouldn't have described him as a mascot, but I guess so.
I never thought of one particular mascot for WB except maybe the Animaniacs, I guess. That's kind of who I associate it with more, personally.
Yeah.
But
the WB for me came more into the 2000s when, like, I think, was it Yu-Gi-Oh was on WB?
Yu-Gi-Oh was on WB, yeah.
I think that's when I actually got big into WB, was the Yu-Gi-Oh era really blowing up. And then it was like also Jackie Chan Adventures.
Oh, yeah.
And there's another one that I'm not thinking of right now. It might come to me, but those two in particular stand out.
Well, Weston, if you ever need to have your memory jogged, just watch my kids' WB medley and you'll see them all on there.
Yeah, I'll see some of that. Yeah, I might have to do that, jog my memory. But that was 2000s. That wasn't even 90s. The so cool for like a week 3D posters that you could hang on your bedroom wall like artwork.
Oh, were these the ones where you like cross your eyes and you can see an image?
Maybe. I don't remember the posters so much. I wasn't a big posters kid though in general. So I don't actually remember these, but I do remember that the 3D like mind tricky like books were a big thing in school.
Oh yeah. Oh, the like the optical illusion books and all that stuff.
Yeah, that was really big. I don't remember the posters. We weren't really big into posters.
Do you remember, totally random, but do you remember the fuzzy posters? Do they still make those?
They had like felt on them or something?
They were felt and you could like color them.
Oh, you could color them too? I don't remember that. That's not ringing a bell for me.
Yeah,
they might still make them. I don't know.
It was felt, but then like, yeah, we had those all the time. And then you could, it would come with a marker set and then you'd color them.
Do you remember those blow markers that you'd like blow into and it would like paint?
Oh my gosh, I remember like seeing an old commercial of like kids like blowing in these things on like a paper or something. I do remember that.
I remember going to a party where like that was the thing that the parents got. It'll be fun for the kids. They'll play with these blow markers. So it's like I'm watching all these kids share these markers and I even as a child was like, no. I'm not putting my mouth on that. No.
Oh my God. That's funny.
It's like, it's not a bad idea if they're your markers, but I'm like, this is not a shareable toy.
Right.
Universal remotes your family would buy at Radio Shack if you guys lost or broke the remote that came with the TV.
I think we had this exact remote. I remember this remote. I remember the little arrows at the top. I remember everything about this remote. It looks so familiar to me. I
remember having so many remotes. That's what I remember. I don't know that we had a universal remote, or maybe I didn't realize it was a universal remote because I don't think I had one that looked like this in this picture. But I remember using a TV remote, a VHS player remote. Eventually, there was also a DVD remote. Like so many remotes,
which is why eventually universal remotes got so big because like there were so many different entertainment things in your room. I think this was in my bedroom when I was. I don't know how old I was, but I had an RCA TV. So I don't know if this was a universal remote, but the RCA actual I know it was an RCA. And that's your RCA remote. So that's probably why. It probably just was the remote for that TV. But I remember it so well. That's so funny. That's like the biggest nostalgia thing for me so far.
We'll do another 90s thing. We'll switch over to 2000s.
I think that's good.
Radio Shacks inside the mall that had the name in the big red font. Well, see, we didn't have a Radio Shack in our mall, I don't think.
No, and also, I remember growing up, we didn't do the mall very much unless we kind of had to. We did have a Radio Shack in our hometown, though. Believe it or not.
We did have a Radio Shack. It just wasn't in the mall. So, like, yeah, I don't have a memory of that. We spent a little bit of time in the mall, not like all the time or anything, because it was out of town from where we lived. But like, we'd go to the mall and hit the food court. They had the carousel there that you would hit a couple of times or whatever. They used to have the old arcade, and there's a lot of clothing and blah blah blah. So we'd hit the mall. We just didn't have a Radio Shack in it.
Right. Weirdly enough,
Remember Circuit City though?
Yes, we went to Circuit City a lot. We preferred Circuit City over Best Buy when it was still a thing, for one reason or another. I don't know why, but I still have very vivid memories. In fact, I think I bought my old video camera that we filmed a lot of our old videos on at a Circuit City, if I remember. So it's a weird timepiece now, but
we were more of a Best Buy family, so we didn't go to Circuit City much. But I remember it, and I had been in it before, but we were actually more of a Best Buy family back then.
But hey, there could only be one, and here's Best Buy. And now I still like if I need to go to like an electronics place now, I'll always go to Best Buy. And I do remember going to Best Buy too, like for the bigger purchases, like the TVs, we'd go to Best Buy, and then for like the smaller stuff, like printers and like. I don't know why we didn't go to like an Office Depot or something, but we'd go to like Circuit City.
Yeah.
I remember we went to certain things for certain things, but anyway.
Yeah, you just find out who's got the best probably prices or something. All right, is this a very simple? We'll switch over to 50 nostalgic things from the 2000s, which we'll probably remember more of.
I think we'll remember more of this because I don't know if you remember this, Weston, but there used to be like kind of this debate of, are you a 90s kid or are you more of like a 90s baby? Because I always thought, like, we're kind of in the middle of both, I think.
You kind of put it on the head there. You're a 90s kid if you were probably born in, like, 88, 89, 90.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think you can be a 90s kid born in 90. But basically, anything past 1990, literally, 1991, 92, 93, you're really kind of a 90s baby. Because by the time you're old enough to be a kid, the 90s are, like, almost over.
Right.
But at the same time, like, it's still the 90s, though. So we were both still 90s kids. Like, 5, 6, 7 years old is still a kid. So you still remember some of the 90s. It's just the late stuff, the late 90s, not the early 90s
like,
stuff.
Kind of like decade culture, I'm just going to call it that because I don't have a better way to describe it, kind of bleeds into the first couple of years of the next decade. So it probably kind
the
of...
first couple of years of the 90s is really just late 80s.
Right,
yeah.
and then the early 2000s still had a lot of 90s to it before it really kind of became the 2000s. So, but looking at this first one here, I think we'll probably have more to relate to.
Yeah. Remember watching the pipe screensaver? Yes, absolutely, for far too long.
Oh, I loved it. Now, did this win our tournament bracket of screensavers? Did this one win?
I don't remember.
Had to have gotten close.
I don't remember who won.
No.
It would have gotten pretty high.
It was either this or Maze. I think it was between this and Maze.
I think the Maze might have won.
The Maze is
I
so
was
good.
a big fan of the Maze. The Maze is just... we've got to do it again. We're just going to do the tier list. See if it holds up. No.
So
the
good.
Maze one is so good. The Pipes is good, though, too.
Pipes are really good.
Burning the sickest CDs in the neighborhood. God, that was such a thing. Burning
that was
CDs.
such a thing.
I never really got into burning Oh my God, they got Lou Bega on it. Anyway,
that's
I
your
didn't
song,
really burn
man.
any CDs myself. That's my. Well, not just Mambo No. 5, his like number one hit, but we also had one of his albums. I don't remember what the name of the album was, and then I've heard lots of his other songs.
That's
too.
crazy.
Everyone knows Mambo No. 5. But anywho, yeah, I wasn't a big CD burner myself, but a lot of people around me burn CDs. I would play someone's burned CD, that kind of thing. My brother burned a lot of CDs because he was just more into doing that than I was for some reason.
I did it a lot. I remember, this is actually shooting forward to like 2010, okay? But that was the year that I got my license. And I had an old van. Like, that was my first vehicle, if you remember. It was an old gray van, a Nissan Quest, and it had a 6 CD changer. So what I did...
Pretty big stuff.
...was I got tired of listening to just a single CD, so I made like 6. I actually made more than 6. I made like 10 or 12 like CDs with all my compilations and stuff. And and so I'd play those. And it's so funny because I was recently cleaning out one of my back closets here, spring cleaning, and I found all of those old CDs. I still have them. And I titled them. The first one was titled Random Crap. So I didn't even like put the song titles on there so I would know. I don't know why. I
Yeah.
guess at the time I knew what was on Random Crap. But then
Right.
I made, like I told you, I made like 10, right? Well, they were all in this box that I was cleaning out, and it was Random Crap 2. And then there was another one, and it was, I should really stop naming these Random Crap. And then the next one was, I really should stop, but I'm still going to name it Random Crap. And there was like 10 of them that all were just a joke based around that.
That sounds about right. That sounds about like your humor.
That exactly. And you know what? I bet you I thought, I'm going to find this when I'm 30 and just think it's the funniest thing. And I did. I laughed at it.
Could you play the CDs, or did you not have a CD player to be able to listen to them?
Well, you know, I'm thinking about doing something around that, like maybe streaming it or something. Like, or I don't know. Like, I want to make an event out of it.
Streaming your copywritten music.
I know, that's what I was trying to think about. But I was just thinking, like, that'd be so funny to like make something about it, like make a video about. Here's the music that I considered the essentials when I was 16. Whatever, and I don't know what those would be at this point. You know, I thought that'd be kind of a fun exercise.
I know number one for me is Tequila. When
When
I got that CD stuck in my truck for so long,
Oh,
that
the
was like one of the
memories.
only songs I listened to is Tequila. Na 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 na.
Oh, the memories.
Flipping through these as a kid, trying to find your favorite band's poster. There's like little, for those just listening, the little giant, they would hold a poster and you'd flip through them at like a Walmart or a Target or whatever.
I did this a lot.
And then they'd actually have all the rolled up posters underneath it or whatever.
I did this a lot.
I would flip through them. I wasn't looking for favorite bands because I wasn't into bands, but I would flip through them because it was something to do while the parents were shopping.
Yeah, that makes
and I would
sense.
just look at all the posters.
That makes sense, yeah. I was a big band poster guy. I don't know if you remember, but my rooms, I had multiple rooms. We moved a lot. But I had tons of posters of different bands, and I liked Cars, too. Or at least I told myself I did. So I had stuff all over the walls. Most of them are gone now. But that was just a thing, and I loved looking through those just to see, okay, my favorite band's got to be in here, right? You know. It was fun.
Yeah, I know as far as the bands go, I'd be flipping through. I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are. And I maybe did know their songs, but I wasn't really into bands, so I just didn't recognize any of them.
These are hitting a lot more.
The magic that was the Scholastic Bowl Fair.
Oh, hell yeah.
Heck yeah.
We both had the same
Scholastic Bowl Fair?
reaction. Like, oh, yeah.
I mean, yes. The Scholastic Bowl Fair was the only thing that could possibly make books just freaking cool.
Yeah. Well, and it was more than
as
books.
A kid. And it wasn't just books. But like that was the big thing that they were trying to sell. People would get like pens and stuff. But like that was a big thing where it's like, oh, I'm going to go look at all the books.
It was so
I was
cool.
really into getting books.
It was so funny because at the time I certainly was not into getting books, but I'd always looked because sometimes, because at the time they had things that weren't necessarily like educational, quote unquote. So they'd have stuff like they'd have strategy guides for video games. And so like I'd always pick those up because this is before I was hopping online. So I needed these strategy guides. I wasn't going the Cheat CC yet. Or Cheat Planet.
Some of those things weren't around yet. Yeah, Cheat Planet's the one I remember when that eventually became a thing.
Right. Man, what a weird time. That's another era, like the cheat code websites and all that. But anyway, they also had PC games. So I got Zoo Tycoon, Mall Tycoon, all kinds of like the Tycoon games that I played for a long time.
I think we got School Tycoon through a Scholastic Bowl Fair, and then for some reason, I think maybe we could never get that thing to work. So maybe it was, I don't remember if it was an operating system, like it wasn't compatible. Something wasn't compatible, so that game like hardly ever worked. And I don't remember where we got Zoo Tycoon. It might have come from a Scholastic Bowl Fair, but I feel like we didn't. But we had that game, so it came from somewhere.
There might have been a scam going on here because I mentioned Mall Tycoon. I got that. That never worked. I don't know if it was an OS thing or like you said, I don't know, but I could get the other games to work.
Some of those games may have been poorly optimized or poorly coded because because the word tycoon got really popular, especially after Roller Coaster Tycoon blew up, and these games weren't made by the same people.
Right.
Like it was different studios, and then they slapped tycoon on the name of their game to try to sell it better. So there might have been shenanigans there. I don't have a clue.
But either way, super fun. I always loved it. I remember that in our big library at the elementary school with the old like shagadelic colored carpet, like
even in the middle school too.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Number 5, when I was 9 years old, my dad was deployed to Baghdad, Iraq. Again, this person's just writing in their own story.
Yeah, they are.
I gave him these Yu-Gi-Oh cards to keep him safe. They've been in his wallet for 12 years. I like how they didn't just say, here's a thing that you'll remember, Yu-Gi-Oh cards. This author's like...
little personal touch.
It's like when you open up a cookbook and you're like, I'm just trying to get the recipe for this chicken fettuccine or something. And they're like, back when my grandma was 13 years old.
That's exactly what I was thinking. My grandma, when I was a kid, my grandma always, That's funny.
But yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I collected a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Did you get into Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon? Or
I
any
did
cards at all?
A little bit of Pokemon cards. Once again,
I was really big into Yu-Gi-Oh.
The funny thing with me, that I'm not I don't know much about Pokemon. I don't know anything about the games, but I had the cards and I loved the show. The video game, even though I had my Game Boys, I loved Nintendo. Never touched the Pokemon games for some stupid... Maybe I just didn't understand how the RPG system worked at the time. I don't know. But I remember the Yu-Gi-Oh cards. For me, the Yu-Gi-Oh cards were like really cool and like too cool for me.
Yeah. And kind of edgy.
They were kind of edgy. So like for me, it was like, I'm not cool enough for this. That's kind of how it felt.
I remember not fully understanding how to play the card game. So my brother and I kind of played by the game because we'd watched the show before, but then also kind of made up the rules a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but for the most part, it was just about collecting the cards because they were so cool.
Oh, yeah. That was a huge thing.
Number 6, the smell of opening a brand new can of Play-Doh.
Did that smell immediately go in your
Play-Doh.
head? Because I smell it as soon as I saw that picture.
I can smell Play-Doh. Yeah, Play-Doh has... Yep, it's got a smell.
Yeah.
I forgot Play-Doh existed.
Is that still a thing now for kids, or do they not really do that anymore?
It's gotta be.
It's
gotta be. It's such an easy toy. It's just molding clay, basically, for kids.
I loved Play-Doh, and my distinct memories. Now, this is going far back. Probably some of my earliest memories, like 4, maybe. I remember whenever I could really start understanding what my parents were telling me, or like it was my dad specifically, because it would be my dad, and he would say, "You can play with your Play-Doh, but put it away when you're done with it, because it's gonna get hard." And I'm not going to buy you more Play-Doh, or whatever it was. And I have distinct memories of that conversation, and then still leaving it out, I'm sure, and letting it get hard, right? Because I remember always going back to my Play-Doh later, and then it's like, oh, it's like crusty, and like it's not, you know what I mean? I also remember sometimes doing that on purpose. I don't know if you ever did this, or if you have any Play-Doh memories, but like I would like make little people, and then like I would let them sit out on purpose so they would get hard. And so they
would be permanent figures or whatever.
Permanent figures, yeah.
I don't think we had much Play-Doh. I definitely played with Play-Doh, but I don't know if we just didn't have very much or it didn't last long. I don't remember a lot of stuff about Play-Doh. I remember when you could like squeeze them through things, like you could make like spaghetti out of like Play-Doh or whatever, because you like squeeze it through a thing or whatever. I didn't eat it. But like, that kind of thing. So I remember playing with it. I don't have a lot of memories of it though. I think I was more interested in just the actual like toys that we had, like figures and stuff. More so than Play-Doh. And the Mega Bloks ripoff on Legos that we had at my grandma's house.
Yeah.
If you remember Mega Bloks.
Oh, I remember those.
Giant Legos.
Yeah, I remember those. I never had them, but I had friends that had them.
Right. Number 7 is these TV carts. Always meant class was going to be fun when the teacher rolled one in. Yeah, when the teacher would roll in a giant cart with a giant fat back TV on it.
This is one of the best, probably the perfect examples of if you know, you know. Because this is a completely lost thing. Whatever, I don't know what the word would be. Like a lost experience, because now everyone's got the smart boards.
Smart boards and projectors.
And like... But at the time, even when we were going through school, I remember a couple classes had the old projectors that we would use.
That you still had to wheel in on a cart. They weren't the projectors in the ceiling that everyone knows now. No, literally, this had to be wheeled in from from a closet or storage or whatever, and you'd set it up. And then it would reflect the thing that you put on the bottom, like through a translite sheet of paper. Yeah, no, that whole thing.
We were the tail end of that, but we did get a little bit of that. Yeah. And they had like these translucent like paper. It wasn't paper, but you could like rewrite on it with like a marker.
Yeah.
You could do like math equations on it and stuff. But yeah, the rolling in the TV, that was always huge. I don't know what you go to in your head, but I always go to Magic School Bus, Bill Nye the Science Guy, stuff like that. I remember we watched stuff
I have
like
no
that.
idea what we watched on them. I remember the sound of the cart coming down the hallway.
Really?
That's what I remember.
That's
I remember the rattling of the cart coming down the hallway, and then you get into the room, and if you have to go over a hump, the as it goes over like a line or whatever, and just
the building
setting it
excitement. Like, it's gonna be like you're gonna be watching TV at school today. Oh my God!
I think
what
for
a
the
memory.
most part, whatever we were watching, I think I just glazed over because I don't remember what we watched. I know we watched movies. I don't remember which ones.
So do you remember getting excited about it, or did you not get excited about it?
I knew it'd be an easy day, and I think
Okay.
a couple of times while the movies were playing, I would just because I read a lot as a kid, I would just sneak my book up and be reading in the dark.
Yeah, you were
'Cause my eyes
reading
were better back
machine.
then. I read a lot in middle and high school.
Yeah,
I read a lot. I really did.
I was curious because when you said, I feel like a lot of people, if they have that memory of like they can hear it rolling in, it's like, you know, it's building, the anticipation's building, and like, it's coming. Because I don't remember that, and I loved these days, but I don't remember them rolling in. I just
Everybody
remember
did. I'm sure the teachers loved it too.
Oh yeah, as an adult now, like from that perspective, it's like, oh my God, yeah, absolutely. Just watch this for 30 minutes.
Easy day.
Yep.
I'll do one more, and then we're really short on time,
Okay.
I think. Number 8, I found an old pic of me playing computer games. As it turns out, I haven't changed very much.
Okay.
I don't know what they're trying to show in this picture other than fat back computer, maybe.
This is also very personal. You want to just go back to go to another one really quick?
Next one. Pencils with cartridges.
Aren't they still kind
This
of a
is
thing?
mechanical pencil. Yeah, mechanical pencils are still a thing.
Yeah.
We'll scroll to the next one.
Yeah. Keep going.
Only fidget spinner I ever owned. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
putting a
I
pencil
remember
in the,
this.
like ruler and then spinning it like a helicopter. There was no such thing as a fidget spinner yet. So it was more like, oh, look, it's a helicopter.
I remember these very well, and I remember I was always too afraid to do it because I was afraid I was going to hurt somebody. I was kind of a good boy, not to brag, but I was kind of a good boy. But I remember seeing kids.
I got to. Oh, go on. You got a story.
I don't have like a specific story, but I just remember seeing kids in class do it and thinking someone's going to lose an eye here. It always scared me. That's all I was going to say.
By the time I got into middle school, I had I don't know if it was like a rubbery or elasticy material. I had a bendable ruler. So
I
it didn't
remember
have the
those.
hole in the middle. You couldn't do that, but I could just bend it and play with it and twist it and turn it. So I had a ruler I played with, but I didn't have one of the wooden ones that I carried around with me.
Those were fun. Those bendy ones were fun. I remember I did do this with a protractor. I remember I had a protractor with a hole in the middle of it, and I would spin it
I
around.
forgot about needing a protractor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played with a protractor a little bit.
I played with a
'Cause you didn't
protractor
need
in
it
my
a lot
day.
in math. I played with a protractor or two in my day.
All right, Weston, we'll wrap it up. Thank you for streaming that for me. Because my computer had a little stupid.
Yeah.
We're gonna figure
Well,
out.
I shut my computer down earlier, so you and I both had a computer issue this episode.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. We got it. First the car, then the computers. I don't know what's next, but we need to be careful.
Everything we talk about or touch on this podcast inevitably burns and crashes. It's terrifying. I'm scared.
Well, as long as we're still alive, I'll wrap it up here. Thank you for listening, everybody. We would love to know in the comments, like if you're watching on YouTube, for example, what are some nostalgic memories you have if you're around our age or younger? Doesn't matter. Or older, right?
Yeah.
We were all born at a certain time. But if you're not watching
If you're a Zoomer and you were born in 2010 and you're like, what's that make you, 14 right now? If you were born in 2010, tell me your earliest 90s memories.
Yeah, we would love to know. If you're not watching on YouTube, that's okay because you can be listening or watching for either way on Spotify, Apple. There's other places as well, so you can check us out. You can actually also, if you want to, listen to us at alexduquette.net/profoundish, believe it or not. I have a stream of the podcast there as well. So, but anyway, anywhere you're listening, show us the love. Give us the likes. Do this while you do it. Give us the love.
Remember doing
likes.
this in school?
Yes, the wave.
Doing the wave or the worm or whatever, but with your arms.
I'm really bad at it, but anyway,
You have to get into it like a flow state.
I can't get in the flow state.
I think this is you're doing great. You're doing fantastic. I don't know what you're doing with your fingers, but you're doing great.
If anyone is just listening, I don't know why my fingers are like out like this. Like,
I know you're like TPing your fingers while doing it. It's very strange.
I was trying to hypnotize Weston, but it wasn't working. Anyway, leave us a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. I cannot stress enough how much that helps the show. Another great way to help the show is going to be leaving a rating on Spotify if you're listening there. We appreciate you. A big bulk of you listen on Spotify, so if you're also there, there's going to be a question or a poll for you to fill out, so make sure you answer that too. We will read those on a future episode of the show. Also, quick shout-out before we go into our own personal stuff to our Patreon. It's a great way to support us. You can get in there as little as $1 a month right now, and you can listen to exclusive Patreon Profoundish conversations. You can learn about the mysterious, weird things that have been happening to our computers. There's other things too, but you can learn about that curse. That's kind of the big one right now. But we cover all kinds of topics, and it's really fun. It's kind of a little more just kind of off the cuff. So check that out. Show us some love. It's a great way to support the show, and it would mean a whole lot to us. And if you have questions that you want to ask, your burning questions, we will answer those specific questions live on the show as well. So definitely join us on Patreon. But that's enough about our show. What about our individual stuff? Weston, where can people find you on the internet?
I've got a website, westonhasty.com, has links to all the things that I do. If you are into gaming, check out my gaming YouTube channel. It's called Magic Man Mo, so you can go to youtube.com/@MagicManMo. If you want to read some poetry, I just published a book. It's available on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle versions called Smiling for the Sky, haiku-style poetry about heartache. If you want to check that out and give me a little support there, you may. If you just want to say hi to me on Twitter, it's @WestonHasty. Alex, where do we find you?
Support the man, damn it. Get the book. Do it. Get the book.
Get the book.
Get the book.
Buy the GameCube. Yesterday you said tomorrow.
Buy the GameCube. That's a great video that only 10 of us know about, but I love that we know it. Anyway, you can find me... You can find me in two places, but I'm going to tell you two things I do specifically right now. So first of all, I do medleys, if you didn't know. My most recent medley, as of the timing of this, is my Nick at Night medley. So if you remember growing up watching Nick at Night, I covered kind of the essence of what Nick at Night was to me, kind of in the 2000s, and I cover all those theme songs in a short 60-second song. So if you want a fun nostalgia trip, check out my Nick at Night medley. Also, my most recent video on VGM Quest, where I do video game soundtrack, deep dives, music analysis, retrospectives. That is out as of the timing of this, I believe. It's going to be out on the 19th of April, so I believe it'll be out already. Anyway, check that out. I talk about the Super Mario 64 soundtrack and how it embodies the essence of childhood and what makes it special. So anyway, listen to that too. And I think that's going to be it for now. So thanks for tuning in to Profoundish as always. And until next time.